Oh. All right, you know what? This is just BS. I was working in the garage for hours, didn't even know. It's freaking snowing more. Anyways, what's up folks? I'm Aaron. Welcome to 802 Garage, your home to endless project cars. I will give you an update in another video on the new car soon. If you didn't see about that, it was in the last video. I'll put a little link up here. Go watch that first. Then come back and watch this because I do have an update here as well on the 2001 2.5RS with a JDM WRX swap. So it is almost ready. The reason it's not ready yet is yesterday I went to town about 45 minutes away, plus a little bit with traffic and weather, to register the new car, which went very smoothly. No big deal. Cost like $150, $250 or something. Unfortunately, they still valued the car at like $1,275, which was kind of surprising to me, but I didn't pay that much, so at least that's good. It was also all the way down to like -12, -14 degrees Fahrenheit last night, and so if I had come out to the garage, it would have been well below zero. Not good conditions to work. It was also very cold today, and then I had someone stop by and I put on a bumper cover for them on his Toyota Corolla. That's just a side job to make some money because unfortunately YouTube doesn't pay well enough that I don't need a little bit of side hustle to keep afloat. And a lot of people have been asking lately what I do for a living or what my like real job is. I guess a lot of you don't know. I'm a YouTuber. This is my job. This is it. And I don't make a lot of money. And that's why I'm actually broke when I tell you I'm broke. I do on the side mechanic work pretty affordably, but I do think I do good work. I'm very careful and meticulous with other people's cars. And I have done on-call IT work in the past, just anything fixing computers in general, but I haven't done that recently. I also make a little bit of money from stocks, which is essentially my savings, but you know, I make a little bit and then I have to sell a little bit to kind of keep afloat. And I also sell some stuff on eBay occasionally, and I make some money through Amazon affiliate links and occasionally eBay associates links, which is why I try to put those in videos when I have good products for y'all. But yeah, that's basically my income right now. So I'm still trying to make the YouTube gig work full time, and hopefully the money will keep going up. But now back to the car. So I do have the brakes all done and they look really, really nice. I know the calipers kind of let them down, but honestly, I did not feel like taking those off and cleaning them and painting them, or even painting them on the car when, you know, they'll probably come off there eventually. Anyways, I do actually have another set of rear calipers that are in nicer shape than those. So if I want to, I can clean those up, powder coat them, and then swap them out on the car, which is just easier. But obviously I really just want this thing to move. I'll show you the other side real quick. Oh. So yeah, I mean, it looks pretty good with the rotor all silver like that, and everything is lubed up. I do still technically need to bleed the brakes, but that's really not the end of the world. Doesn't take very long. This was one of those things where doing the brakes took way longer than it should, and I will explain why. First, I put the rotors on, of course, and that went fairly smoothly, except to my surprise, they needed pretty much the star wheel adjusted all the way in for the rotors to even fit. I'm just used to it having a little bit of adjustment out, but that was totally fine, obviously, so I got them on, got everything seated, made sure that the e-brake handle was working, which it is. It's like 3 to 5 clicks to get pretty firm, which is basically what they tell you to adjust it to anyways. It was way out of adjustment before, so those are all good. And then I went to put on the calipers, and I basically cleaned the threads, cleaned off rusty spots, and I put on the stainless steel brake pad hardware so that it could slide freely. But then I encountered my first issue, which was the pads would not fit. Now, these are the pads from R Concepts. They are their ceramic series, and they definitely have a fairly thick, seemingly powder coat on the pads, whatever it is. And I believe that put them slightly out of spec. But also, I'm sure these calipers are a little bit rusty, but really, I've seen calipers so much worse before. I basically just had to give these a little wire brush, clean them off real quick, and they seemed like they were totally fine and operational. So I really don't think it was the fault of the calipers, because in the past, I mean, I've seen them so rusty that I could hammer off layers of rust like I was doing underneath the car in previous videos. Then, you know, still wire brush them down and then put the stainless steel hardware in. So basically, I think the pads were made a little bit out of spec, plus what I'm working with on the calipers is a little bit out of spec. I just ended up getting out a grinding wheel and grinding the coating off the pad ends and just doing a little bit at a time and test fitting them until they slid freely but not loose in any way. So I got them all pretty good. The back side of the driver's side of the car was the worst. I had to take off the most there. And then the outside on the passenger side was actually the easiest. I didn't have to take off anything. So who knows where all that variance is coming from, but I figured it's better to take material off of the pads, which are expensive expendable rather than taking material off of the calipers, for example, if it's not necessary, because that could put them out of spec in the future. So just a little tip for you, always modify your expendable and cheap parts, not your expensive parts that are supposed to be permanent and not disposable. They're not a wear item. That's the term I was looking for. So that ended up taking a bit longer than planned. I got the driver's side all together, moved on to the passenger side, and realized I did not have the caliper bracket bolts. And so I went and I found those, and those were actually all chewed up, which I remembered it was a pain getting them out. And so one bolt was almost completely rounded off and the other one was also a little bit worn. So I spent, I kid you not, probably a half an hour or more just finding hardware because I searched all over. I did not have any matching bolts of Subaru hardware that would work for that. So what I finally did find was some nice brand new metric hardware from the hardware store. They're not like great flange head bolts or round seat bolts or anything like that, but they will work. The only issue is they were slightly longer without a washer, so I did need washers. And what a joke. This, I believe it's probably M8 hardware. Just, I could not find any washers that would fit. I searched all over my garage. I searched through my hardware. Most OEM hardware either has captive washers or a different style of washer. So I looked all over, went through my jar of washers in the basement, and finally found a set that actually worked. And even one of those was technically slightly mismatched, but it would drive me crazy to not have a matched set of bolts on these rear calipers. So I finally put those in the passenger side caliper. I also replaced the bolts in the driver side caliper with the same thing, since I was lucky and did have 4 of the grade 8.8 bolts. And so now it's all matched and it looks good and it has washers and it shouldn't come off. And then I of course torqued everything down. I also tested the pedal real quick just to make sure that both of the calipers kind of drew up to where they were supposed to and that everything was fine. It seems like it's all moving well, and like I said, I just need to bleed them now. So that's the brakes done, except for bleeding, and let me just run you through a quick checklist of what else I need to do. And by the way, yes, if it makes you upset that I got some anti-seize on the brake rotors, cry me a river in the comments below. That's one of those things that people freak out about on the internet that kind of makes me chuckle, like, oh my god, you got a little bit of grease on the rotor, your brakes are ruined now. And I'm like, man, you could probably like load your caliper with grease, and if you hammered on the brakes enough, you'd probably burn it all off. And I know the brake pads can get impregnated with, you know, fluids or whatever and ruin them and stuff like that. This is like a little tiny bit of brake grease. I'll try to clean off the rotors before I run it, but like it's not the end of the world, especially since they're drilled and slotted. It's going to wipe that off pretty much immediately anyways. And yeah, I'm not worried about it, but you can complain and disagree with me below if you like. I do appreciate your opinions. This is just one of those topics where I've never seen any major adverse effects from like a slight amount of grease being left on the caliper where I couldn't clean it off. So it is what it is. But let's run through a quick checklist, and I'm always surprised how many things there are left to do. You know, it's a little bit different when you're rebuilding an entire rear end of a vehicle versus, you know, just doing one component, like just doing the brakes or just changing lateral links, which, you know, on this can be just as bad. But like if I only had to change the subframe and bolts came free, it'd be like 8 bolts and then like all the stuff to take the diff out, which is a pain in the butt. But that still would have been way less than replacing the knuckles and the brakes and the trailing arms and everything like that. So it's just one of those things where the list goes on and basically replacing the differential. So checklist remaining, I do have to bleed the brakes. I don't have to. I'm sure they'd be fine, honestly, but I should bleed the brakes, so I probably will. Oh, and by the way, I did want to mention, I think that these trailing arms are actually bent, because the funny thing is that both of them have a slight upward curvature, which will probably be hard for you to see right now, but the ones that came off the car do not. And looking online, there's only one part number for both sides, no matter which year I look at. And it looks like they're supposed to be perfectly straight so they can be interchanged on either side. But right now, they're basically equal on either side, curved up. But obviously, if I flip one so it could go on the other side, it would have a downward curve. So I think both of these got slightly bent somehow. I think maybe because they were on a Subaru that was actually lifted. I'm really not certain, but I'm not worried about it because they still seem plenty strong. They're not crazy bent or anything like that, but I just thought I would note that because I figured out that I don't think they're completely right. They do actually have 2 different numbers stamped on them. It's like 5116 and 5117 or something like that, but I couldn't find any references online, so don't know if they're OEM or aftermarket or what. Most likely OEM, but possibly a tiny bit bent. Not the end of the world. So checklist. I have to bleed the rear brakes, ideally bleed the front brakes, but I probably won't do that right now. I do still need to fill the rear differential, which obviously should not take very long. I would actually like to drain and fill the transmission fluid as well, because I'm pretty confident that that stuff is trashed, especially when it's cold out. I still need to put on the axle nuts as well. I haven't done that on either side. Obviously, that's not a super long process. And then I need to do the exhaust, which the only reason that's going to take a while is I do have to re-weld the hanger for this side back on the car, and like I said, I may need to modify that central hanger as well, although I'm hoping not, but I think that's probably going to be the case. I think that's it, and then this car will actually be ready to move. So doesn't seem like a very huge checklist. Definitely seems like something I could get done tomorrow. I did actually think I was going to be gone today. That's why I got the car registered yesterday. I was going to go to ice races in Burlington, but they got canceled because the ice wasn't quite thick enough. So obviously that gave me today to work on this, but it was super, super cold in the morning. Did that bumper and then got out here and did as much as I could. I went through a lot of fuel in the heater. It's supposed to be above 25 tomorrow, which would be pretty nice overall. I know that's kind of funny to say, but that's still below 0 Celsius for any of y'all out here who aren't American. So I think that's it. I'm pretty sure I have everything else torqued down. I think everything else is ready to go. It's just basically bleed the brakes, rear diff, fix the exhaust. Those are the actual must-dos. Obviously put the wheels and tires back on and lower it down on the ground. That's the last step. Now that does present another problem that I just remembered. These are definitely performance all-season tires, but they would not cut it at all in this weather. I do have another set of snow tires that should fit on this car that are on my old 93 Impreza, but they're gonna be a real pain to get out of the snow where that car is, but that's still probably what I'll do just so I can actually rip this thing around. I'm pretty excited to actually get this thing moved, because even though I will be doing a few more videos on it because I have some fun mods to do, stuff that doesn't involve the rear end, some turbo noise stuff, some intercooler stuff, you know, some upgrades, because it doesn't hurt me to upgrade this car at all, because it's still fun content and will be something other than just rebuilding junk. It'll be fun upgrades, fun noises, turbo stuff. And that's all stuff that no matter what will get used in the future, even if not in this car. You know, if I upgrade the intercooler on this car, it just goes into whatever I swap into this thing. So that stuff should be fun, but I'm not sure, you know, exactly what order things will be done in as soon as this is out of the garage. Definitely has taken me longer than planned as always, but that's life. It'll move very soon, and thank you all for following along and watching 802 Garage. I keep feeling like I'm forgetting something, but I can't remember it right now, so that's gonna be it. Oh, yeah, I hope you enjoyed the full battle rattle, dirty, gross, very anti-seized snowsuit and very posh hat attire, because I wanted to come out here while there was still some heat in here instead of getting changed before making the video. So, you know, just admire the good looks. And good on you for looking out for 802 Garage. Appreciate y'all. Catch you very soon. Bye-bye. Thanks for the SR20. Have a wonderful time.